I'm not another PT coming to Dubai.
No.
I'm not another performance coach. I'm someone who's had lived experience with this change. But if I was going to give any bit of advice that I've done is to just plant as many seeds as possible. They won't all grow, but at least if they're in the ground, they're going to at least have a chance of growing and blooming. With that, my arm was completely crushed in between the metal post and the 200 kg weight, and it completely destroyed my arm on the spot. The adrenaline that I had experienced was through the roof, and natural drug kept me alive.
Dubai is so aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
You meet someone like yourself and it makes you have a huge reality check.
I've now become more confident than I was before. I'm stronger than I was before mentally and physically. I play golf better now than I did with two hands before.
That is absolutely amazing. Welcome back to Why Dubai, the podcast where we sit down with the inspiring people from all walks of life to discover not only why they chose Dubai, but the journey that brought them here. Today's guest has one of the most remarkable stories we've ever shared on the podcast. Henry Dunn's life changed forever after a devastating accident while working on an Australian Outback, resulting in the loss of his left arm. Most people would see that as the end of a dream, but Henry turned it into the beginning of a completely new chapter. Today, he is an elite adaptive CrossFit athlete, motivational speaker, and is preparing to compete in the Adaptive CrossFit Games in San Jose, proving that our greatest setbacks don't have to define us. We're going to talk about resilience, rebuilding your identity, elite sport, and of course, why Henry chose Dubai as his home. Welcome, Henry, to Why Dubai. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
We briefly spoke in the corridor and you've already had me crying, so I can brace yourselves. This is going to be an emotional one. We kind of touched base on the questions that we're going to go through together, and I was already a mess. Mm-hmm. I think when you meet someone like yourself, it kind of puts a lot into perspective. You know, you've been through a lot. You've done a lot since you've been through a lot. So, I mean, first question, we'll open it up with why Dubai? How it brought you here? Was you here before your accident? Did you come here because of your accident? So what brought you here in the first place?
So the first time I ever came to Dubai was a year after I had my injury. So I was meant to come to Dubai after my Australia trip, and I was away for a full year of traveling Southeast Asia with my partner, now fiance, but we did a 9-month stint all throughout Southeast Asia, and then we finished in New Zealand and then ended up in Australia. So my plan was to come via Dubai off the back of that full year, just to see the city as a bit of a holiday.
Yeah.
But then literally 3 days before I was meant to fly, I had my accident. So the first time I came to Dubai was a whole year later, just to see Dubai as a city, as a holiday with my parents. Never did I think was it then 2 years after that, I'd be living here. Right, you know, I saw this place, was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, saw it, went home.
Yeah.
And then continued life. So I'm just trying to think actually. Yeah, so never did I think I'd ever be back.
No, so you came here, so you found Dubai on the chance being a holiday destination. I think that's most expats.
Yes.
They come here, they see it, they love it, and it is amazing. Like when you first come here, it's not just the buildings and all the fancy restaurants and stuff. I feel like Dubai's got an aura about it. You know, the people just in the airports are helpful. The people in the restaurants are helpful. Everyone's so helpful. Everyone's so nice. It's like, I was pregnant, I was living in Dubai, travelled to Istanbul. Now, being pregnant in an airport in Dubai, you're like royalty.
Yes.
And I remember landing in Istanbul airport, waiting for the passport, and I was like, can you let me through? They was like, no, back of the queue. Like, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get, you know, the golden treatment. But here, they're like, pregnant lady, come on. Like, and it's that kind of service that I love, you know, living here. It's that 5-star service wherever you go. You can't pull up to a car park without someone offering to wash your car for like a £5, you know, like it's that kind of like set up. Yeah. And I think you come on holiday and you see it, you walk around the malls and there's someone carrying your bags for you. And it's like, do you know what? I could get used to this.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not a bad life. And I think when I was here, we saw it as a holiday. So when I went home, we were home for then 2 years and I was in rehab and progressing in that way. But then if I look now, we live out here, me and Becca, and we've already had our first year. So we've been here now 1 full year, just under. Like, where's the time gone?
Yeah.
And if we look at, I came out to Dubai self-employed, so as a freelancer. So I set up my own company called the Adaptive Edge. And again, I really had to do it because me and Becca, we're not currently married, we're engaged. So that was I can, jump on a visa, and I didn't really want to do it in that way. So I set up my own company over here called the Adaptive Edge. And again, that's a play off everything that I've been through. So those areas of the business would be coaching, and then mentoring coaching on the kind of the progression of individuals, both physically and mentally. And then there's the keynote workshops and corporate talks that I would do with schools, with companies.
When you go through something like what you've been through, I mean, your accident was 3 years ago? Mm-hmm. You was 23.
Yes.
So it's a not just a physical challenge that you've gone through, but obviously the mental challenge, which is why when people like yourself step up and you go, do you know what, like, not saying you're ever going to fully recover mentally from it, you're always going to have your struggles. Well, I'm assuming you're always going to have some sort of mental struggle dealing with why has this happened, or, but it's having the voice and having the confidence to say, do you know what, I am going to make a difference to everyone who needs to adapt or needs to hear my side of the story, and just help them through a challenge that they're going through.
And since the injury, that's just been heightened and maximised. So my degree's in sports injuries and rehabilitation. I studied that for 3 years. COVID hit. We finished our final year at home, which was a bit of a rubbish time, but we pretty much finished the year. Then COVID hit, lockdown hit, then the year abroad. We had a year away. Then the accident happened at the end of that year. And then I saw a huge gap in the market of individuals with disabilities and training and the barriers. I experienced it, but because of my degree and kind of the mindset of rehab and adapting, I thought, well, there's definitely a gap here. So now the work I do, 80% of my clientele are individuals with disabilities or impairments. And that's the person I want to be known for here in Dubai is, right, we've got a trainer who can coach people with amputations, people with brain injury, spinal cord injury. So that has then progressed over the last year and a half.
So before your accident, you was heavily involved in sport anyway.
Massively.
So you had done all of your degree in sport and everything like that before your accident.
Yes.
So this is just taking what you love doing and just doing a different spin on it, if you like.
Exactly.
You're doing what you love, but it's actually a lot more powerful.
Yeah. I'm not another PT coming to Dubai.
No.
I'm not another performance coach. I'm someone who's had lived experience with this change that I can now use to help other people.
Yeah.
And that's the focus I want. The same thing for my talks. It's, you just spoke about it previously. Dubai's very, I wouldn't say cushy, but everything there is made to make life easier. Like people carry bags, people clean your cars. Yeah. But the thing is with that is then people or children coming through the system are going to get used to this. And then in the real world, if they do leave Dubai, A, they might be in for a shock, and B, their resilience level is going to be pretty much down here. So it's about having this lifestyle, but also constantly building that resilience and actually having opportunities to build it. Yeah. So that's, again, another area of focus that I want to get into and have done this year.
I do agree. I think Dubai has a bubble, and you live in this bubble, and it's amazing. I've got children and I've got a nanny. And that's not to say that my children are going to have nannies for their children. Yeah. So we still, my husband and I, make their bed every single morning. Yeah. They put their washing in the washing basket every single morning. And if the nanny goes upstairs and their washing isn't, she leaves it. Yeah. Because I don't want them to just have this like mindset where it's fine, if I chuck it, it's going to get picked up. Yeah. So simple things, cereal bowls in the sink, like she's not a slave. She's there to make my life easier because I'm a working mum, but she's also not there to pick up your knickers off the floor. You know, like that's a respect thing. Yeah. That's something that I was taught when I was a kid, you know. So, and I see a lot of the Dubai children, they're just so entitled because they get everything given to them, and it will affect them in later life if you give them everything they want, because again, we're all busy working. Sometimes the guilt does trip in. I get it as a parent, but actually you're just setting them up to fail when they're older if you just give them everything they want.
And that's why, like, going into schools, I've already done it many times. I've been into many of the schools, and anyone listening, I'm trying to get into more schools because the feedback I've had from the children and the students and the teachers are, we'll get you in next year. So that's how I was building back home in England, but coming out here as a complete new individual, it was hard initially to get my foot in the door, but now I've got other schools, you know, I mentioned them, like Jess and Gems, a few of those schools are going to get me in September, October.
And what's your motive? What's your goal to make the children be more resilient?
So the focus on the topics are building resilience, having that strong mindset. Because when we are faced with change and challenge, are you going to sink or swim? Yeah. And if you can build foundation blocks before things happen, it gives you a better chance. It's like, I go to the gym to get strong. We train our muscles to get strong, ready for a competition. But in the real world, it's about training the mind. Again, in business, in like high performance, it's how do people deal with stress in the next challenge or a difficult client? It's, you know, I don't have direct experience with that because of the work I've done. I've never gone into corporate, but it's the principles that are the same in a lot of the industries.
How did you feel the first day you stepped back into the gym with one arm? Like, how do you mentally prepare yourself? Like, you've gone through recovery, you've gone through rehab. How do you mentally prepare yourself or have that mindset to go, I'm going to go to the gym today? Like,
for me, knowing how important the gym was, it was both mental and physical. Like, I knew the physical side was going to be easy because I've trained before. I've been a rugby player before. That was part of that sport. But then it was, again, managing the mental side, which involved, you know, we'll go into it a bit later, but all the PTSD symptoms, the flashbacks, the nightmares, all of that, especially in the first year, were the most extreme, intense. They've dropped off now, but it's managed. And it's managed through sport and fitness and exercise and everything. That's why I knew it'd be so important. But my first
gym session
day back in the gym was in CrossFit Tewkesbury. So I lived in Gloucestershire at the time, and it was a little box. They call them boxes, CrossFit gyms, then, you know. Yeah. And rang the owner. I said, look, I've done a little bit of CrossFit before, but really strength and conditioning and all of that. This is what's happened. And he said, right, let's meet you in at 12 o'clock. It'll just be me and you. We basically do a pre-WOD to see how you are. And it was very simple. Like,
how long after your accident was this?
So I came home on the 9th of December, which is my mum's birthday. So I got off that flight, saw my mum at Heathrow Airport. My dad was out with me. A very emotional time. And then I reckon I saw Christmas pretty much through at home, seeing friends, seeing family, back at the rugby club on Boxing Day. That was like religious, what we do every single year. And then I think it was pretty much come January. Like,
and your accident was in the
15th of November.
So this was like
literally like
weeks.
Yeah, I would say so.
Wow.
Very soon after. Because what am I waiting for?
Yeah.
Like, wait for what? And if anything, it's all the mental stuff was only going to get worse if I didn't act on it. So yeah, I rang him and said, look, I'm coming to the gym. He said, that's fine. Let's see what, you know, we can do and manage. And at the time, like my arm was completely, still skin graft. You can see it on this leg here. And it was still very sore and raw and still a bit like open. So I had to be really careful of that. But we just started to adapt and change and get movement in. Yeah. And from there, it started to progress.
And did you feel like when you was in the gym, that's when you were shining, you know? Because obviously you've taken something really, really bad that's happened to you, but I don't know how to put it. You've gone into the gym and you feel like yourself again, you know? And you've kind of taken that and you've turned it now into a living, a lifestyle.
Yeah. Not in the first year.
Not in the first year.
No, only I would say in the last year and a half, maybe. Yeah. Because the first year of like training was unlocking movements of like deadlifting or doing pull-ups or toes to, in CrossFit world, toes to bar. And it was all about unlocking these movements. And in the early days, I was doing a lot of unilateral work, so a lot of just right arm work, because this had to heal on the left side. And I knew one day I'd get to it, because there were lads across the world who have a similar, amputation to me, but some of them are congenital, so born with. And I just reached out to them on socials to say, hey, I just had an amputation. I noticed you use this strap for that. Where'd you get it from?
That was another question of mine. How did you know what straps to buy? Just
I didn't. I just reached out to these guys who had the same amputation or impairment as me. And so with that, they said, mate, I just found it. One of the lads who was the world champ at the time, Casey Acree, who I actually spoke to yesterday before I leave, he used it. You remember Razor scooters?
Yeah.
The ones that used to slap your shins and fold in half. Yeah. Well, he had a strap for that, and he said, ever since that, from when I was young, the strap stayed with me. But now I get it made from a person who I know. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't an answer. There wasn't a shop that I could go to buy this strap. Yeah.
Which is again the power of social media. You know, it can be really, it can be an absolutely amazing place.
Yeah. If used well.
If used correctly.
It's probably, it's really helped me with it. So I just knew I needed to get hold of this type of strap, because it would give me then bilateral movements on using both sides, and then it would limit overuse injury of my right arm, which again, all the health professionals are very concerned about. Yeah. Because everything is one arm now. Mm-hmm. Even washing dishes, showering, shoelace, everything now. Yeah. Obviously there's prosthetics, and we'll get onto that. But it was about how can I maximize both sides into training, because then I'll be able to lift more and
using
able
the
to progress
actual
more.
Strength from this side.
Yeah, and actually building this side up.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say I'm too, like you say, it's not going to be the same size, but it's not far off.
No.
It's not 90-10, it's probably maybe like 60-40 or whatever. So, yeah.
So, take me back to the day it happened. Mm-hmm. Where was you? What was you doing? So
I was in the Northern Territories of Australia, which, if you've ever been to it, there's nothing there. So the reason why I ended up in Australia in the Outback was because I wanted to work and experience this world, not going and working in a bar in Bondi Beach or whatever. Yeah. I wanted something that I could look back on and think that was an experience, like proper experience. So think in the end of August, let's say it was, or end of September, whatever it was, Becca flew back home to England to do her teacher training. Ready for September. I then said, look, obviously we had this conversation before, but I'm going to stay out in Australia for 3 months. And she said, do it, go and do it. I'm going to be doing my teacher training. You want to do this experience, so go and do it. So I messaged loads of stations, sent off my CV. And again, it's very popular work, station work, farm work, hospitality work. And again, I don't want to work in a bar or a coffee shop for 3 months. So I flew up to Darwin and then got a bus, Greyhound bus, all the way down south to a little town called Larimer. Smallest population, or one of the smallest populations of a remote town in Australia, with only about 11 people. So the town is a pub, there's a famous Pink Panther pub. So it's bright pink painted. There's a 15-foot Pink Panther in a big chair out the front. There's a documentary on Netflix as well if you want to watch it. Not about me, but about something else, which I'll bring up. The bus dropped me off. Again, classic film moment. Chuck your bag off, the bus drives off, and you just look around. There's a little tumblewheel rolling around, and is this it? Yeah. And then a ute came, and it was the manager, one of the ladies, the manager who of the station. His wife actually picked me up, and then pretty much the next day it was right, first day of work.
Work being?
Cattle.
Okay.
Yeah. 15,000 cattle they had on that station, all for meat to be shipped. It was actually going to the Asian markets, to Vietnam. So it was drafting on motocross bikes all day, and then moving the cattle into different paddocks. It was branding, it was fighting bushfires, pulling snakes out of troughs so they didn't bite the cows. It was blood, sweat and tears work, dehorning, castrating. Yeah, it was brutal, really. And then there was maintenance work of bores, where they drill down and they fill up the water tanks to feed the whole cattle. So it was, everything I did was new, but it was like extreme straight away in terms of the heat.
And did you get any training?
Yeah, so it was all like, again, but training.
Or was it learning on the job?
Learning on the job. So it wasn't, the type of environments over there we get up at 5, we're ready to work at 6. And if you get to the cars at 1 minute past 6, the boss would be like, good afternoon, mate. Like, afternoon, I'm up here at 6 a.m. But it was obviously a bit of a joke. And we'd be working for 12 hours, really, a day. It was 6 till 6 standard. But it was then, you don't stop work when it comes 6 p.m. You stop work when all the cattle are in the yards and you've done. So sometimes we were mustering at night time with head torches on the bikes and stuff and just slowly walking them in. Or you get a call in the middle of the night saying there's a bushfire, we need to get up and get out. Or there's a delivery at 3 a.m, which I don't know why they would come at that time, but we'd have to deload. So it wasn't a job, it was more of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, 15,000 cattle.
And how many teammates did you have? How many people were you working with?
5.
5 of you with 15?
Yeah, but not at one time. There were, across the whole land, 15,000. But per paddock, you're probably looking at maybe 500 to 600 cattle per head, like on the size.
I mean, and then that's a lot.
Yeah, it was loads.
500 is a lot.
Yeah, it was loads. Like in the UK, a decent dairy farm will be like 600 cows. But that's dairy, this was meat. And then we'd be out for bush muster, which then we'd have the choppers in the sky, external companies coming in, choppers, a few of us on bikes, a few of us in utes, all with the radios on. And you'd be camping out and the choppers would come around and then they'd say, right, go. All the cattle would be like running towards you, big bulls, everything. And then you'd have to come round and guide them all into the paddocks. And then once that was done, that's when the work was started with the branding, the drafting, splitting them off, dehorning, everything, castrating, all of that stuff. And that was the next day. So you'd draft all day, you'd walk all day, and then you'd draft all day. And then there were like 15 paddocks, and you'd have to do it twice through. Did it by choice. Yeah, I did it by choice. And people would think this is hell.
Yeah.
And at times I felt like it was, because it was so hard. We were drinking 8 litres of water a day minimum just to survive in a way. Yeah. Because you were out. It's like being in the summer here. Yeah. It was really, tough work. But I did it because of the experience. And it was amazing. Like the things I learned, it was, I wouldn't change it, even after this.
Okay, that's good. That is very inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Then?
And then, so it's the last week of work, flights booked, ready to fly home. And the day, it was cloudy. So it was tropical season now. Humidity was really high, but grey clouds in the sky, potential bushfire weather because the lightning strikes. And it was a standard day, another day, but this time, because all the maintenance, so the cattle work had been completed, it was all maintenance. So fixing some of the trucks or fixing some of the buildings, but the main maintenance work was the fences. So every paddock had barbed wire fencing. Like we've just spent 3 months splitting up all the cattle and branding, drafting. We need to make sure our fences are solid. If they're not, then the cattle just get mixed up and our work was wasted. So what we were doing, we were hammering fence posts into the ground. So 3-inch stainless steel posts using a hydraulic post rammer on the back of a tractor. Now, a big hydraulic post rammer is 200 kgs on that weight. So it would go up and it would come down. Now, this was on a Wednesday. And my last day was on a Friday. It's about 11, 12 o'clock. And what happened was we would fence posts in 3 meters apart to create the laneways. But at this time, the post that I just posted, that we just hammered it in, had to be 3 meters. So I measured it. It was perfect. And then, as I said to the guy on the tractor, like thumbs up, all good. Normal procedure would be the back of the tractor would raise and then he'd drive forward and then we'd move on to the next post. But at this time, I just wanted to measure it one more time, again with my left hand, just to check that it was 3 meters, and it was. And before I knew it, I heard the rev of the tractor and suddenly the biggest bang I've ever heard. And underneath that, my arm was completely crushed in between the metal post and the 200 kg weight.
My God.
And it completely destroyed my arm, like, on the spot. So I let off the most horrific, like, scream of panic and fear, and I could see my arm, and it was just like, I freaked out, but it was almost not managed in one way. But I got my mate to get a tourniquet, or I said, get a tourniquet now. And it was a t-shirt from the truck, and we just tied it on. I said, pull it as hard as you can. Not as calm as that. This was just like adrenaline just went boom through the roof, and like panic mode kicked in. And I just knew we had to get to home, the homestead or the pub, which was like the post office, the gas, everything. It wasn't even the gas station because they didn't have it there. But like, I tied a tourniquet on. The arm is still there or still attached, but it's like completely destroyed. So we get in the car, and we're about, at this point, luckily, we're only about what normally would be a 25-minute drive. Like, we could be 2 hours away on this station and still be on the same station. It's that far. And so I got my mate, work colleague, who is a good mate, to pull it even tighter. We got in the car and we just bombed it down to get to home. Bearing in mind with that, my arm's here, I can see the footwell of the car and it's just covered in blood. Like, the panic's there. Jack's freaking out. I'm freaking out. We're screaming down the radio, like, who's home? And there was no answer. And that is because the manager at the time had a meeting up north with the station semi-owner, or one of the part owners. And then the other, like, the manager's wife was at a meeting somewhere. So there was no one on site. Whether that should have happened, I don't think it should have done. But we then bombed it straight to...
So who was driving the lorry?
My mate.
Right.
Or the truck. We were in a truck at this point.
Sorry.
Yeah, in a ute.
No, I mean, when the accident happened, who
The same
did
person.
the same person?
Yeah, the same person. And so we get to the pub in 10 minutes, like in a record speed, we were flying. We smashed through the gates because you normally have to get out the car.
Yeah.
Undo all the things, open the gate, pull. We just flipping went through them. And then get to the pub, who we see on our days off, like the guys who work there. And I just said, call a effing ambulance, I said. And at first they were just like, what? Like, because they could only see me and Jack in the car. And then Jack came around, pulled the car, and then they saw, and their faces just like freaked the hell out. So then I actually initiated all the basic first aid stuff. So I was like, get my feet up, get me in the shade, get another tourniquet, get me a pillow, get me out the sun, because I don't know how long I'm going to be here. They were on the phone to the guys in the air ambulance, the air doctors, because this was the answer. We needed an air ambulance. Otherwise it would have taken too long. It would have taken 8-hour drive to get to the Darwin hospital, or 5 hours. So the police arrived, the ambulance arrived an hour later. So I was there for an hour, and the adrenaline that I had experienced was through the roof. And that, I reckon that natural drug kept me alive, because
I mean, to go through an accident like that, number one, my husband always says you either go into the scene or you run away from it.
Fight or flight. Yeah.
So my husband always says you either go into the scenario or you run away from it, you know? And touch wood, I've never really been in a scenario where I've had to experience that. My husband has. He saw someone who was choking or swallowed their tongue or something, and he was the first one to go into it. Now, I, like I said, haven't been in that sort of situation, but for you to have done that to your arm, still had the brain capacity to say, get me a pillow, I think
Now I look back,
do you know what I mean?
I
Like, get me a pillow.
Much. It's instinct. It's survival.
Yeah, it's an instinct that
your body needs to survive, and it will find any way possible.
Yeah.
Whether I said pillow, but it's definitely
but I don't
feet raised.
I don't think everyone's like that, honestly.
You don't know how you're going to respond.
Yeah, you don't know how you're going to. But I think, again, it's a mindset. A mindset. But you're in you or not.
But where I was the middle of Outback, Australia. You're not going to have, again, this is like people who grow up on the farms. and I'm going to say this how it is, are not well educated. However, they are incredible at what they do.
Yeah.
That's their life.
Yeah.
The system of education, they're all homeschooled and they work on the farm. So the guys who I was with, you know, you talk to them about anything that, you know, I would talk with my mates, what are you on about? But then they could work magic on these cattle. And that's what I learned, you know, from these guys. So when I got there, no one knew what to do. No one freaked out. Everyone freaked out. I was like, I need to flipping switch on it because my life could be at risk. If I lose more blood, then, you know, this could be it. So they kept me awake and I was awake the whole time.
Did you have your arm covered?
There's a picture I use in my presentations, which technically, no, it wasn't covered until the ambulance got there, really. They then wrapped it up. But like, I felt sorry for the two guys at the pub who were new that week, who I hadn't seen before. And they were there with me and I told him to go away because he was like freaking out. The other lady, and I'm still yet to try and find out who they are. I haven't done the search. But there was one man who you'll really like this, who was cycling from South Australia to North Australia with his partner, British man from Penzance in Cornwall. So I heard a voice. I was like, oh my God, I've heard an English voice. And he came over and he said, after chatting with the guys, I know first aid. Like he said, I've done my first aid. I thought, well, this is a bit far stretched from first aid. This is like, you know, Grey's Anatomy scenario. And he basically I could see him, I could see my arm, see my hand, because it was still, my hand wasn't damaged. It was the forearm. Yeah. That was completely destroyed. So when I saw him, he was like, well, I'm just going to have a little feel. And he was like, just tapping my fingers. I was like, I don't feel anything. Nothing. The only thing I could feel was like the phantom limb. We spoke about this the other night, and I thought, okay, and in my head, I'm like, I can feel a little bit, and I can definitely feel something, so hopefully I could regain that. But that was the phantom limb, and he was tapping, just slowly squeezing each finger, and I was watching him doing it, and I'm just like...
So you got airlifted?
So I got airlifted, but not from there. We had to drive an hour to the next town because the air ambulance couldn't come to us because of tropical season. It was like now getting cloudy and a little bit thunderstormy. So we get up to the next town called Mataranka. They have hot springs there. It was lovely. We used to go there on days off. The air ambulance came and picked us up and we took off straight away, got in there. We then had to emergency land after an hour to refuel because it was an emergency call out. They were already somewhere, so they had to then come back. But then we couldn't take off because of the storm. So when they were like, right, we need to go, they couldn't. So we were just waiting, and I don't know if it was 20 minutes, 2 hours, like the time I can't work out. But what I do know is that it was 8 hours from the time of the injury to when I got to hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Because it was midday when it happened, and the sunset happened at 6, and I saw the sunset in the helicopter, and then I got into hospital and I saw it was just gone 8 o'clock into theatre. And
so no meds, no pain relief?
Not for the first hour and 10, 15 minutes, but once the ambulance arrived, I don't know what they put in me at that point.
Probably morphine, I would have thought.
But in the air ambulance, I got hit with 4 mil of ketamine straight in, and it sent me I was trying to kick out of there. I was trying to get out. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? They couldn't hear me, I couldn't hear them. Freaking out, really trying to get out of this because they pinned me down, they'd strapped me because I couldn't move. And then we got out of the helicopter, honestly we took off and the helicopter was thunder. I could see the lightning strikes.
And I know it's crazy, but you've got no family there.
No.
You've got no one there. Like when you have an accident and your mum's there or your wife's there or your girlfriend, you've got a little bit of I know obviously it's an extreme accident what you had, but no moral support at all. You barely know the people, you've known them for a few weeks.
I'll tell you something now is, again, you got 4 children?
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually rang, before they injected me with ketamine, I think as we were on the ground, I actually rang Becca on FaceTime. So when she answered it, she could see me all wired up. I just hung up straight away. I was like, I can't talk. And then I think I voice noted her and say, Bet, I've had an accident and everything. She was like, what's going on? I said, I've I had an accident, I've hurt my arm. I need to try and call mum and dad. So I think that she was trying to get hold of my parents. And then because I called mum and dad and none of them picked up. I think my sister, they managed to talk, but then my dad was there, and I called them on the airplane, and I told them I'd broken my arm. I couldn't say like how bad it was. So they then realised, okay, this is bad. He's being airlifted. He's going to theatre. Like, this is bad. Then when we landed in Darwin, got into theatre, there was 30 people in theatre, doctors, nurses, surgeons. There were 6 plastic surgeons that were on hold and called, waiting for me to come in. So they got me in ready to go. And during that time, before I was going to go under on the, anaesthetic, Dad was on. I was on the phone to Dad. I said, Dad, it's really bad. Like, almost to the point where I think I might have to, I said it, amputate. And then I just remember their reaction. It was really tough for both of us when mum and dad were there. So then I handed the phone to the surgeon. I was like, can you just talk to them? Because I didn't know what was going to go on. They didn't know what was going on. They shoved a bit of paper in my face to sign. And that was just like, what the hell did I have to sign? But
I've had that before when I had cesarean.
They did say, look, not as casually as this, but we'll do our best.
Yeah.
We'll do our best, but we might have to amputate. And I kind of knew that was going to be the case. I talk about it really calmly now, but at the time I was just in so much shock. I couldn't process anything what was going on. I was just like, okay, like, just do what you need to do to keep me alive.
Yeah.
And then they said, look, if it's going to be an amputation, it will only be like 3 hours. But if we're going to save it, there'll be a lot of reconstruction. There'll be a lot of everything. It's going to take it could be a 15-hour surgery. So just to warn you, I said, okay. And then I woke up in my hospital room and I saw the time, and it was just gone like 1 a.m. And I got in at 8 to 9, do the math. It was only 3 hours. So I looked at the clock and I just knew, I knew. So then I just could just see it. And I was just like, I just sat there. If I was crying at this point, I just sat there with this numb feeling. And then I was like, what's happening with mum and dad? Like, what's going on? So yeah, that's...
But what was going through your head? You saw the 1 a.m.
I just knew the arm was gone at that time.
What was you thinking? Like, what was the first... Do you remember... Obviously, you remember laying there. You've come so far from when you had your accident. How do you build that resilience, from that moment laying in the hospital bed, knowing that you've just lost a vital limb to now competing?
Yeah.
How do, in such a short space of time, And that's, I think that's probably the biggest achievement.
What you just said there about the building of resilience is that station, I built a lot of resilience, which is ironic because that's the resilience I built at that station is the resilience I needed on the aftermath of my injury, which happened at the station.
Because there's a lot of stages that you have to go through with acceptance. Yeah. There's the acceptance of, okay, not being told but knowing. You've got that first stage. You've figured out in a few hours, okay, they've amputated my arm.
Yeah.
There's then the looking at the arm, which would have been another acceptance. Okay, it's gone. Yeah. That would probably for me would have been the hardest part, is actually seeing it. Yeah. Then seeing it unbandaged is another stage of acceptance, because you see something that's bandaged, you think, okay, right.
Yes.
Then there's seeing what it actually looks like. Yeah. Then there's the stage of, okay, now I've got to try and use it. Yeah. So there's been for there's so many different stages of acceptance when something like this happens. Yeah. It's not just, okay, I've had an accident, I've lost an arm. Yeah.
With that acceptance though, there's also how people will accept it as well. Mm. And that's a big thing of how I've managed to, I would say, use this to my advantage and to fuel growth in areas, is because my now fiance Becca accepted it very early on. My parents accepted it very early on because they saw the strength that I had, but then I don't think they realised that I got the strength from them. So it was like, your family network is so important. Yeah. And if you look at, say broken families, and me and my dad are very close. And I think having that relationship there where he's my dad, but also like a best mate, then a mentor when he needs to be, is the exact person I needed. Yeah. Because he then dealt with all the stuff going on with when the police came, we had to give statements, and I gave a statement the day after my amputation. Like, I had the work health and safety guys from the NT on the end of my bed. They were very good. They were very like, look, you know what you've been through, but we do basically need to have a statement.
How long after did it take for your parents to come out?
So Dad, again, Australia, England, is 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I think he came within 36 hours or whatever. He was on the
As
first
quick as
flight
he
that he
could.
could.
Yeah.
And he came just after my second operation, which was the skin graft operation. So the first Op 1 was amputation. Op 2, a day later, was skin graft. Now, the scariest part about that was they said, we've amputated just below the elbow. And I thought, thank God I've got my elbow. But they said, we're going to go for a skin graft now because we need to take a skin graft from your thigh to then fill in the gaps of the skin. But we may need to go higher.
If it doesn't
I said, what do you mean? They went, we may need to come higher on the amputation if the skin, if the flesh and bone isn't healthy on the end. Yeah. The second surgery was more scary than the first one.
Yeah, because you wanted to keep your elbow.
Because I wanted to keep my elbow.
Yeah.
And for those listening, if you've got an elbow and you're an amputee, it makes life a lot easier. Like, you've lost a limb, but having just that little bit, it's the same for if you lose a limb below the knee, having that knee is huge.
Yeah.
So I then was just like...
Well, it's a vital part of motion, isn't it?
Yeah.
The elbow and the knee. Yeah. When you're doing any sort of...
Yeah, you've got that movement.
You've got that movement.
Prosthetics are easier with an elbow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that second surgery was a lot scarier.
Yeah.
And I remember Dad kind of waiting, knowing he was going to walk through that hospital door at any point, knowing it was like 7 p.m. or whatever time. And that moment is like quite an emotional one because it was just like, we didn't say anything. It was just a hug.
Yeah. That
lasted like forever, it felt. So that was a tough one.
Yeah.
And then it was, we need to sort stuff out whilst we're in Australia now with everything. But I was in hospital for 2 weeks. Which
again isn't long,
but they're pretty, I know this sounds crazy, but once you've had an amputation, especially upper limb, they get rid of it and you're out. And the reason why I was in hospital for 2 weeks is because I had lymph node damage. So my whole left side was just like really podgy and fat. And they were a bit concerned. I had blood tests every day. They were concerned because the fluid wasn't going down after about 10 days. And I had this vacuum machine, which was basically sucking out elbow inflammation that would fill up every 24 hours at 500 mil. And it looked like honeycomb. Yeah. And he had a little handbag. Like I could leave, but I had to carry this big thing with this pipe out my arm to go to the cafe. So luckily that slowed down. And was in an apartment or a hotel block for a week. And then I flew home 3 weeks after the injury. And I got home on the 9th of December on my mum's birthday.
That's when you remember.
And I remember like seeing Mum, my sister and Becca all at Heathrow Terminal 5 on their arrivals. And that was probably the most emotional I've been since like on that injury. That was,
It's a part of acceptance, isn't it? You've had obviously accepted what had happened to you in hospital, in Australia, booking the flight home, travelling, you've accepted what's happened. Then you have to go through that acceptance again of, okay, I've gotten out. And of course your family are going to accept you. I would accept any of my children for whatever they go through. But your girlfriend at the time, is she going to accept? There must have been so many thoughts going through your head.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of your recovery. What would you say the biggest part or the biggest challenge of your recovery was?
It was the time it took to almost regain back independence. Yeah. Because in the early days, it was relying on other people to do things for me because I actually could not with, again, how sore and sensitive the arm was. I knew one day I'd get there because the arm would heal and then I'd have to adapt. But I couldn't drive when I got home and I couldn't drive for about 4 or 5 months. Now, where my parents live is in the countryside. We're on a farm, but we're not. They bought the property that was on the farm. So I couldn't walk into town. I couldn't just jump on a bus. Our village doesn't even have a bus system. So everywhere I wanted to go, Mum, can you drop me off? Now for gym sessions, it was a 12 or 15 minute drive into the town to get to the gym. So she just used to just wait. And as a great mum, you would, but like she could do that because she had the time. But like otherwise I would have been completely you know, it would have been a different challenge.
And you said you started going to the gym just weeks after
Pretty
your
much.
accident. You called your
months after.
Right. Was there ever a time or a stage where you thought my sporting ambitions, because obviously you was very ambitious and very into sport, was over? You know, was there ever a time where you thought that was over for you?
I mean, the rugby door is over for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard pill to swallow because I grew up, we're a rugby family. Dad, uncles all played good level. I played rugby, a decent level, not amazing. Still played, you know, East Mids, didn't get into the like Northampton Saints Academy and stuff, but I was in their development player program for 2 years. That door was closed.
Yeah.
And I had mates be like, yeah, but you could get back on the rugby pitch. And I went, lads, if I injure my right arm, I'm going to be 23 and my mum has to do everything for me. Yeah. Like, even if it's
be
for
sensible.
6 weeks, but let's be smart here.
Yeah.
Like, and even if I landed or knocked this arm, flip me, that would be painful. And it still is. If I knock it in a way, it's so painful. So it wasn't worth trying to get back to it. And even like passing, like what I used to know I could do, passing the rugby ball on the beach with that or in the field, like we don't do that anymore. Now that's quite hard. Like that's stuff I want to do with my son and stuff. And
what about the prosthetic?
Again, like,
can you catch a ball with it?
Yeah, you're better off for catching a ball. You're better off without a prosthetic,
right, okay.
Just because you get that feel. But then, as I started to develop with sport, functional fitness, and CrossFit, I say it specifically, but again, functional fitness and training, that rugby door got not easier to see close, but like it became. I found a completely new focus. That gave me the same values that rugby did. So like training 5 times a week, competition, community, it was the same. And I think that's what like made me go, well, hold on a sec. Like if I can progress with this sport, which I have done because of my injury, then that's the way we're going to go. I'm not going to try and hold on to something in the past to try and get back to where I was, because I knew that would be pretty much impossible to get back to that.
And you haven't just done it as a hobby or to help you with rehabilitation. It's became part of your identity. It's become your source of income. It's become your line of work. It's become your love. It's become, a huge part of your journey.
Massive.
I would say it probably is your identity. You know, the whole concept of you being an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say personal trainer because you're not necessarily a personal trainer. You're
a specialist coach, performance coach. Because again, like especially people be like, "Oh, what do you mean?" But like I've specialised in adaptive and inclusive training, neurological, and again with amputations, like there's always more training to do in terms of like the spinal cord injuries.
Yeah.
But God, the depth of that's another level.
Yeah. So you've turned it into not just a way of life, but you've turned it into a source of income. You've turned it into a lifestyle. You've turned it into, I would say, a big part of your identity. You're not by any means, I would say, a personal trainer. You're a specialist in what you do, not only because you've experienced having an amputation, but you're qualified in that industry as well and in the field that you work in.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So after my injury, which was sports injuries and rehab, I'm not going around just because I'm an amputee doesn't mean you can coach amputees, but I've done specific courses, adaptive and inclusive training, to understand more in depth of people's impairments and disabilities. I then worked for a company only for like a couple of months in the UK who wanted me to do a neurological course because they had a few clients in the area. And so I did a neurological course, which made me more confident and work with people with Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. So a few of my clients had Parkinson's. Again, he was a great client and I still keep in contact with him. I still do online with him now. He's like 75. He got diagnosed 2 years ago with Parkinson's and they thought that was it. Yeah. But the research behind exercise and movement can add on and limit the progression of the symptoms and that Parkinson's shows.
But I think with any sort of accident, injury, amputation, health condition or whatever, there's two sides of this. You've got the physical recovery and you've got the mental recovery. What would you say was more difficult to recover from? Was it the mental?
I'd say the mental.
The mental recovery.
Yeah, just on my own experience with my sport and fitness background.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier in the podcast, like sport, getting back into the gym, it would take time. Yeah. But it was the managing, like after my injury, signs of PTSD, bad dreams, anxiety, all of that stuff, flashbacks. Flashbacks were the biggest ones. Anxiety, again, gets thrown around a lot now.
Yeah. It's a cheap word to use, I find now.
I've realised what the experience is of anxiety after my injury, but now it's so much more managed, or it is managed.
Yeah.
And the flashbacks now are a lot more subtle than what they were.
Well, time is a healer, you
Absolutely.
know, and after the first day, you having the flashback of what happened, it's going to be a lot more intense than fast forward you in another 5 years.
Yeah.
So I do believe in that saying that time is a healer, but it's how quick you as a person take to heal from any sort of accident.
Yeah.
Some people may never recover. Some people may never get over it. Whereas I feel like you as a person, you have acted upon it so well.
It's about management. I think, like, when you say, have I fully overcome it? I do think it is all about its management. And sometimes you're running, sometimes you're then really struggling and you're stuck in the mud with it. But throughout life now, more challenges are going to come. Like when I have children, which hopefully one day I do, what's that going to look like? You know, because my vision of being a dad was with 2 arms, and now it's going to be with one. It's not impossible because I see other people who are doing it, and there's just going to be a different way around doing stuff.
And I think the journey that you've taken throughout life, you was always destined to do something to do with fitness or sport or rugby or whatever, with people.
Not in a corporate job for sure.
No, exactly. We had this conversation the other day.
That's my sister.
But like you said, being a dad, you obviously will still be a dad one day. Yeah. It just looks a little bit different.
And if not, this probably make me a better dad in terms of the values, the morals, the attitude towards it. And that's the thing, with everything that's happened off my injury, has all led to incredible opportunities. Like I'm off to America tomorrow morning.
I was just about to say.
It wouldn't have happened if this accident didn't happen. Exactly. I wouldn't be representing Great Britain if I didn't have this accident. I wouldn't be public speaking if I didn't have the accident. So, you know,
fast forward to tomorrow, you fly?
Yeah, 8 a.m, 17 hours.
So
direct.
You're off to San Jose.
Yes.
For the Adaptive CrossFit Games.
Correct. And
you are representing?
Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Even though obviously I live now in Dubai, you'd represent your...
So you're now a representative of Great Britain in an Adaptive CrossFit.
Yeah, global
competition, which you can stream live on TV.
Yeah, I need to check that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to send the link, actually.
They said they're streaming it, but it's all kicking off because they're trying to charge, I think. But then I found out today it's on Amazon. It might be on Amazon Prime. Okay. But they haven't said that yet. But I know somebody who works for CrossFit. It was said it's on Amazon Prime. I'm like, tell people that so you can keep that in. But so the link will get sent out, but it can be live streamed.
From the moment that you laid in that hospital bed, you accepted the fact that you had just had an amputation, to now sitting here today, hope we're doing this podcast together, you're off traveling the world tomorrow. To come, I think, so far in such a short amount of time, we're not talking that this accident was 20 years ago. This was like 2.5 years?
Three and a bit years ago.
3 and a bit years ago. Yeah. You know, I think that's an inspiration to the next person, you know, who's going through something difficult. It can happen still in a short amount of time, you know, like don't wait to feel better tomorrow, you know, act upon it now. And in 3 years, you could be traveling the world. Is that you need to that's the message that I think is so strong for you is. I agree. And I think the whole thing with action is so important. Yeah. It doesn't have to be massive. It's about building blocks. Yeah. Bit by bit at a time, you're going to build a solid foundation. And from that foundation, you can then go on and, you know, live life. Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing after the accident. It was like, what is life now going to look like? Yeah. Can I drive? And at first I thought, I'm not going to be able to drive. But I know quadruple amputees who drive a car. Yeah. Like a guy actually came to my house who worked with my dad who had sepsis, came to my house after my amputation. He has 4 prosthetic limbs, walked in the house, drove. I said, how'd you get here? So I just pulled up. It's like, you drive? He's like, yeah.
And he showed me his car and he said, mate, you'll easily be able to drive. So, but all these unknowns, and that's why the communities of people use social media, use the people you know, use these networks, connections, charities, organisations, flipping ask for help and support early. Because the longer you leave it, the harder that hole is going to get and harder you're going to have to get out.
And at what point did you think the UK isn't for me? Even though you've just been through what you've been through, you love your family so much. You speak so highly of your family. You've obviously got a great relationship with your dad, and I'm sure your mum as well.
Yeah.
You've got a sister.
Yes.
You've just been through all what you've been through.
Yeah.
And then you go, actually, guys, I'm off to Dubai again.
Yeah.
Like, that must have been...
So my parents and my fiance's parents, Becca, they're very much live your life.
Yeah.
So UK is home. It will always be home. And we're out here not knowing how long we'll be out here, as everyone does in Dubai.
Yeah.
I've been out here for 2 years or whatever. We're now here for 18. Hear it all the time. Initially, it was 1 year. Then it's 2, and then it's, 4-year plan, the 5-year plan. So the reason why we moved to Dubai was actually more on Becca's side. She kind of led that move. So she's a teacher, loved her job, loved her work in England. But then we were like, because we traveled for the year, we got that hit. And we were like, we want to then experience a new city, new country, and live somewhere else apart from the UK. We were 25 at the time. So life's too short to just stay in your, not that we would stay in the hometown, but stay in England as such. And there's a whole world to see. So Becca started applying for some jobs, got accepted. And then it was like, okay, right, I'm off there almost 2 years post-injury now, which is when they basically call you fully medically rehabilitated, let's say. That's like an insurance / medical thing. After 2 years, they would say, like, this is where...
It's fully healed, everything's
it
fine.
might not be fully, but it was. After 2 years, I would say I was at fully healed. Physically, say, because the mental side could be longer. That's not on the mental side, that's on the physical side. And then I thought, I was starting to do a bit of PT work, coaching work at home, working for a company, and I was driving to people's houses and doing, again, specialist training with people who had strokes, Parkinson's, amputations. I had a guy all the way up, like, north of the north. I drove for like 4 hours, but because we were specialist coaches, that's what we would do. And he was my age, and he had a really bad accident similar to me. And I was like the person he needed because I now knew everything what I'd been through. So it was almost like an OT role / specialist trainer all in one. And then I also started to do talks. And this is another key thing. And this is the area of work I'm currently involved with over here in Dubai and the UAE, but is keynote presentations and corporate workshops on resilience, on change, on adversity. And I've had many opportunities this year on doing so. I've done smaller corporate sessions. I've done big oil and gas companies. I've done schools, each tailored to specifically the company and what they want out of me and the age and everything. So that does change. But there's a big gap, especially in the schools. And then in the workplaces, again, look where we've just had what's happened with the war, that change and uncertainty, people the fight and flight, people have gone home and never come back. And using my experience of everything, I've spoke with psychologists, I've spoke with some very, high professional individuals, but it's now getting that out to people in the workplace, people in schools.
And do you feel like that's become a passion of yours as well now? Not just the sports and the fitness, but putting your message across to people to make them more resilient, to make them more stronger minded.
Especially when we're in a world of Dubai where life has been made really easy, like ordering anything. There's a shop downstairs in my building and people still order it to come up.
I know.
I try and go down, but guilty. Last night I got them to bring some stuff up and I think, when tough times come, this is not going to be good for people. No. It's not. And it's great what we have here and it's incredible. But I think it's that balance that we still need to maintain and make sure people are building resilience, even from a young age, especially from a young age. Yeah. But then bringing that into adulthood when they're in the workplace, whether with their families and life happens.
I think the fact that you're trying to put that message across on resilience, confidence and things like that is a big factor, because especially doing it with children, obviously... I spoke to you about this a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Children like to look.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they can't help
Adults
but
like to look as well.
Adults like to look, you know, and it's not something you see every day.
No, it's not.
Someone with a missing arm. No. But the fact that you're actively going out there, putting the message across and making people who might be moaning about, I don't know, that their skin isn't quite right or they don't look quite right in front of the camera or, you know, because Dubai is so aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
You meet someone like yourself and it makes you have a huge reality check. You know, that's how I feel when I'm around someone like you. I'm like, do not moan about if you
it's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah, I know, but it just kind of, and I think there should be more of that to make people check themselves.
Yeah.
You know, we are all princesses in Dubai. We're all kind of highly strung. And I think to come across someone like you, it kind of then does put everything into perspective of how lucky we all are. You know?
Well, I even think that about me because I could have died on that day.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why life now is just grasp so many opportunities. Like even like quickly, in the first year of my work or year and a half, I got invited out to Berlin because a company wanted, they have an adaptive clothing range. I went out, I think I'll tell you, it was Caroline I think I spoke to another evening, but like I went out, flew to Berlin, the company paid for my flights, and I had this opportunity for Zalando, which is a big retailer over in Europe, and I did a whole days of shooting.
That's so good.
I've never done it in my life. They were like, have you done it before? And I was like, if I'm honest, guys, no. They were like, tell them you've done it. I said, what am I? And then I had about 8 different outfits to trial on or more than that. But the opportunities off the back of this adversity, and that's why a lot of it is about other people. So when you next go for your change, the first thing you'll think about is, oh my God, you'll freak out. Yeah. But then it's about letting the dust settle and then using that to fuel opportunities and growth. Yeah. And that's, if I can get that message across after a loss of a limb, I've now become I'm more confident than I was before. I'm stronger than I was before mentally and physically. I play golf better now than I did with 2 hands before. Absolutely. So it's just like...
Yeah. Anything is possible.
And people say, oh, really? But yes, like I'm proof in my own story, but you guys are proving your own individual stories on what you go through. Like you will always, it
is a lot about mindset though.
It's all about
mindset. All about your mindset.
It's all
you
about
know,
mindset.
You can make something like what you've done, like what you've had, completely change you, go inwards. And that's also not okay, but it's also okay. You understand if someone can't deal with it, you know, because it is a big, but it's having people like you put the message out there like, come on, this doesn't have to define
the hardest thing with the modern world and the next generations coming through are the quick fixes. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. Or just anything quick.
But it's expected, or they want that. You know, TikTok and Instagram, it's quick hits. They see people online and it's like quick hits. Now this is taken,
days, you know?
It's all a load of BS really. Like this has taken me 2.5 years. Even people will say, well, that's nothing compared to like you've had an amputation. Some people it might take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Things take time. As you said, time's the biggest healer. If you can understand that and not expect a quick fix straight away, because it's not about how quick it is, it's about the time taken. And you have to build that block by, steady blocks, day by day, brick by brick, to build that. That's especially in the first year of anything that is drastic.
I think what you've achieved in the short time since your accident and even before your accident, I think all what you've achieved, you're only
27.
You've been flown to Berlin, you've done modelling shoots when you've never done it before.
It was very good, but yeah.
But you're now flying across the world doing like what you've done at the age that you are with the accident that you had, I think is absolutely incredible, honestly. And I think you should be very, very proud of yourself. And I think a lot of people listening would be looking at someone like yourself, and I think you would inspire a lot of people to push themselves that little bit harder and push themselves that little bit further out of their comfort zone and hopefully make a change within themselves as well.
It's about, I think it's the impact on, I don't want to just be like the reason of the inspiration, but it's to make people have that change.
If there was one thing or one big piece of advice that you could say to someone maybe struggling with a setback or feels like they can't gain their confidence or they don't feel like they can do something, what would you say to that person?
I find this question really interesting because there's so many quotes now I see online and, on these podcasts, on these people of inspiration. But I think I might say it with a bit more realism of that things will take time, but you have to be willing to connect with people, and whether that be, like you say, your close friends and family, but you have to be open to that. You can't fight this battle all alone. Yeah. The earlier you can do that, then who knows what will happen. But at least if you do that, your chances are a lot higher.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for people now is holding stuff in. Yeah. And holding being emotions honest in and everything. I reached out to guys I didn't know he was Spanish, America, Australia, who all had amputations. I just messaged them. But then I had my close friends and family by. So it's, what have you got to lose, especially when you're in a really deep place? You haven't got much. So I would say that's the key.
The message would be reach out.
Reach out, be open.
Yeah. And ask for help if you need it.
But also time, it will take time. Yeah. Don't expect some angel to come to you and say, do this and it's going to work. You've got to try different things. Figure it out for yourself as well, but get that support from people initially. Yeah. Get yourself a mentor. That's what I did. Get yourself a mentor. People help people. Yeah. And that's where we met, like you say, if you talk about connections, that's the whole point of that, that's led to so many incredible conversations, opportunities. And that's why we're here now, talking here.
It is. And I'm very excited for you to fly off tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful that you're going to win.
I'm excited. And I've had some great support as well. Like you said, we've mentioned Adidas, but the main support I've had is from Connections.
Yes, I was going to mention.
And Nurez and the team there. Without them, I would be struggling to get out there.
Yeah.
And there are some big costs involved. But after a talk I did at the IEDC, friend of Gary Foote was there. Gary Foote got me to talk with him, got me to talk to Nurez, got me to talk to you guys. So I have to say a massive, massive thank you to the team at Connections, and I'll be a big part of that for my, the foreseeable. And again, looking forward to represent them because I've got my t-shirt on here, the supporting t-shirts with Connections on the back. We look forward to meeting new people, making more opportunities and again, having those conversations.
It's that reaching out, isn't it? It's going to these sort of networking groups and it's going to these sort of things that you never know. We would have, if I wasn't a member, we would have never had met.
Yes.
And I've loved your story. I'm loving your journey. I think you're an inspiration. Yeah. I want you to meet my children as well. They're actually a big homeschooling community. So I'm thinking maybe we can do something with the homeschooling kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Because they don't have that. They have a tutor and they have me as their guidance. Yeah. But when it comes to mental resilience and things like that, I definitely think there's something that we can do.
It needs to be taught in schools. The whole resilience mindset focus on that. It's so missed in the system. There are so many other topics missed, but I think that's why I get into schools. And once schools realise the story and what I'm talking about, then that's when they say, next year, can you come in for the New Year 11s? Yeah. I'm going to go back to that point about the advice. Now, like I said, I don't always get that question, but it's a really interesting one where you want to be original. But I've just come up with something after that, that 5 minutes. But if I was going to give any bit of advice that I've done it's to just plant as many seeds as possible. In that first phase, just have a conversation with someone. It might not grow. And if it doesn't, but you've planted another 10 here, you might go to one networking event. Sorry, you might go to 50 in a year, but that one networking event is the one that blooms. And that's the same for so many different examples. I might message 10 amputees online. 9 might not reply, but the one who does gave me the idea of the strap. Plant seeds. They might not grow. They won't all grow. But at least if they're in the ground, they're going to at least have a chance of growing and blooming. So that's my original piece of advice. And I think for my own story, that's what I've done.
Well done. I think today's conversation is proof that one moment does not have to define the rest of your life. What matters is how you choose to respond. And if you choose resilience and determination, you can keep moving forward. We wish you the very best of luck at the Adaptive CrossFit Games in San Jose, sponsored by Connections. And we will be definitely cheering you all the way from Dubai. And I cannot wait to hear how you get on and to welcome you back. And if anyone is watching or listening, and if you've taken one thing away from today's episode, let it be this: your circumstances do not define your future. Henry, thank you for joining me on Why Dubai. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.